taking it too far. I don't want to say this. I cheated on my husband. I hate saying that. I hate myself for doing it. I can't eat or sleep or stop crying or stop dry puking. I haven't told my husband yet and I don't know how I'm going to do it. I know I have to tell him because he deserves to know. I don't want to lose my husband, but I deserve it if I do. I hate how much I hurt him. I know what it feels like to be cheated on, and I didn't think I would ever do that to someone. I wish this was a bad dream that I would wake up from. I don't know how to tell him and what to do for him. I don't know how I'm going to stop crying long enough to get the words out. Am I allowed to be here? I just don't know what to do. I don't expect or want to be praised or coddled. I know I was wrong. I knew it was wrong. I know my husband might leave me and he has every right to. What I did is really hard for me to talk about. I hate that I did it. If I could take it back, I would in a heartbeat. I know I have to be able my husband's questions and I can barely answer these. When I tell him it's about him and I need to be able to compose myself. What happened? I went back home for my high school's 10-year reunion. My husband didn't want to come with me, but I did want him to go. I haven't been back home since graduating and I wanted to see my family and old friends. I stayed for a week and came home a few days early because I didn't want to be there anymore after what I did. Why did you do it? I don't know. It felt good in the moment. I felt like I traveled back in time and nothing had changed and life's problems went away. I was stupid. What choice would you make about your marriage if you knew your husband had, or was actively cheating on you? I think I would stay again. How old are you and your husband? I'm 28. My husband is 32. We have been together for 10 years, married for 2 years. Do you have minor children at home? We have a 9-year-old and 2-year-old. Was it a one-night stand or an affair? I'm not sure what to call it. Does your husband know the person you cheated with? No. Have you ever cheated on him before? No. Has he ever been cheated on before? No. Is it over? Yes. I won't do it again. I'm scared to write what I did. I feel disgusting and pathetic. I know that I deserve criticism and it will be far worse from my husband. I'm embarrassed of what I did. I have tried to tell my husband, but I can't get anything out. He's going to hate me and I'm scared about his reaction. My husband needs and deserves to know. I've been cheated on and I know what it feels like. I know how it feels to be sat down and told that. I know how it feels to find out from someone else, and I don't want my husband to ever feel that. It's one of the only things I have control over at this point. He can walk away from me, but I can at least give him the info from my mouth rather than someone else. Cheating was my decision that I made because I suck. My husband, marriage and problems are not at blame. Writing why I did it will sound a lot like blaming. I'm not going to have sleep with my husband until I have an STD test. My doctor said it's too early to test. May 19th, I flew to my hometown. I was going to stay from the 19th to the 29th. I had vacation time to use and my husband didn't want to use this year. I invited my husband and did want him to come with me. I wanted my husband with me. He stayed home because he didn't want to take time off work for that, as he had no interest in going. His vacation time carries over and mine does not. Our 2 kids stayed with my mother-in-law for the week and my husband stayed cautioned home alone. I have not gone back home since graduating and I was excited to see my family and old friends. I met with some old friends, which included exes, throughout the week. On the 24th, my high school had a reunion party. I made horrible choices. I came home the morning of the 26th. I came home because I didn't want to be there anymore after what I did. I wanted to be home and didn't want to see anyone again. I also knew that if I stayed, my husband would think the cheating continued. Only my brother knows because he saw a guy leave my room. I was the only one who broke vows that night. I haven't accepted any contact since that night. To me, a one-night stand is sleeping one time with a person you don't know and never seeing them again, and an affair is ongoing. That's why I don't know where to categorize it. If there was started to finish a good time more than once in one night but with people from the past, is that still a one-night stand? Not to me. I don't want to give him the specific dirty details. I've asked for those details in my past and I regret doing that. Do I write the timeline before I talk to him? It has to be a play-by-play of that day. I'm not making a play-by-play of the affair. Who initiated? I didn't initiate but flirted and went along with it. Where did you do it? My hotel rooms. Did you do anything that you did not do with your husband? Yes. Is the OM married? No. What was said when you were leaving? How did you leave it with the OM? A note left for me that said thanks for the lay and a text. I haven't responded to texts. Did you use protection? No. Who else knows about this? On my side, my brother. I would take it back if I could. I did some things I haven't with my husband, but he's never asked or tried to do them. I know it will be the worst part though, but I can't hide it. The cocky thanks for the lay note weren't written by me, it was left for me to find in the morning. I haven't engaged in any texting or talking since falling asleep that night. My brother won't say anything, but I don't trust anyone on the other side not to. My husband could get a message right now saying what happened. I was the only married person with something to lose. I've been asked to text pictures. I haven't and never would. I can change my number and say not to contact me again. I don't want any contact at all. Do I do that now or wait for my husband to tell me to? Now seems better. No. Did you communicate with the OM prior to the trip? Are you Facebook friends? I was Facebook friends, but I'm not active on Facebook. We didn't talk before the trip. There was a like on my comment that I was going in the reunion group. I deleted them from my friends list. I'm supposed to tell my husband who was bigger. That seems like one question to lie about. I know that it looks bad. It is bad. I don't know if it was 2 times or 3 times. It was back to back, fell asleep, once more, fell asleep. 3 times start to finish, so I say 3 times squeezed into 5 hours. My husband might have his own opinion on it. Being drunk isn't an excuse. It made what I did easier. I know how I get when I'm drunk and chose to drink anyway. I was just as drunk when the bonding started as when it finished. The last time, by the time I woke up and came to, he was already in me. The first 2 times were more like one long time. I couldn't have left the bed if I wanted to. I crawled to the bathroom to throw up. My proudest moment. The note didn't feel good, but that isn't why I'm upset. I cheated on my husband. I broke my vows 2 years after I made them. I wanted to take a bleach bath, go home and be with my husband and forget what I did. I don't want either of them. I'm not upset about a note, I'm upset that I cheated on my husband. I could have predicted the note. I didn't want him 15 years ago and don't now either. It has nothing to do with my brother. We're twins. He's my best friend. He'd have known something was wrong without seeing anything. He's texted me 2 days later to take a picture and send it to him. I did not take pictures with anyone. I understand I suck as a wife, but that's lower than I'd go. Just know, my mother-in-law wants to take my boys for the weekend, so that's when I have to tell my husband. I'm shaking from thinking about it. I flat out say what I did. No build up. I hate myself. I said I wanted my husband there because I meant cheating wasn't premeditated. The Kleenex comment was uncalled for. I got frustrated and slipped. I said the alcohol wasn't an excuse, or at least meant to if I didn't. None of that was to justify my actions. If I was going to justify my action, I would have said that my husband has cheated more times than I can count, which is why we waited 8 years to get married. I'd say instead of sleeping with me while I was pregnant with number 1, he had a handful of side pieces. I'd say that there's nothing like finding out you were cheated on while pregnant, going into labor at 31 weeks and delivering at 34 weeks. I'd say that I refused to sleep with him after he cheated because I couldn't bear it. I'd say that his high drive dropped to next to nothing because, I quote, sleeping with you isn't worth the work. I'd say that I asked for details and was told woman number 6 tasted bad because they had just worked out together. I've never been able to let my husband go down on me since then because it's all that I think about. I would say that my kids went to my mother-in-law's for the entire week I was gone because my husband can't handle parenting, not because he also deserved a vacation. I would say that I hate being rejected by my husband because after he screwed anything with a heartbeat, he won't sleep with me because it's too hard and not worth the work. I'd say that I don't even bother trying because I don't want to be turned down anymore because I hate it. And none of that matters because I agreed to reconcile and marry him. So no, don't tell me that I don't know how he feels or how hard it is or what he has to swallow. I'd say that yeah, I went home and felt good when I was wanted for once. An ex-BF from a 4-year relationship with the ink still went on his divorce decree, flirted and gave me attention, and I snatched the rebound attention up, forgetting that he made a mistake too and accidentally screwed my then best friend for 2 weeks, then dumped me on my birthday. But I knew damn well it was wrong as I ate it up. Or getting a lot of attention from a guy who hit on me every damn day for 4 years even though I always turned him down. Feeling good about that too and falling for his charm that hasn't changed a bit and gave him what he waited 15 years for. I've been on the other side of this and I know what it feels like to be blamed. So, no, I didn't blame my husband. I guess now I have. I don't want to leave him or lose him. Everything in my marriage I agreed to when I married him. I knew what I was signing up for and agreed to put it behind us. 2 wrongs don't make a right. I can complain about my marriage, but it's the one I chose. There's no you did it first in marriage. He hasn't cheated during our marriage. I knew what our past was and agreed to it when we married. 2 wrongs don't make a right. I broke vows, not him. Once we agreed to move forward, there is no going back to the past. I can't expect my husband to get over it because we put that issue to rest. He opened the door for me to sleep with someone else before we married and I didn't want to. He made it clear that offer ended. He regrets cheating and he is faithful now. If I would have said my husband cheated first and our physical life blows, I would have been told that I was using that as an excuse. I was told that anyway, so maybe I should have said it from the get-go. I didn't come here to be told my marriage sucks. I already know that. I don't want to be told to scratch this marriage and find a new one. This is the one I picked. My husband has said sleeping with me isn't worth it for years. Before we married, and he still says it. If I would respond well to want to have fun, and no foreplay and get over my insecurities and not need any time together after, then he would probably want bonding more often. It's not worth him putting in effort, so jerking off wins. If we didn't have kids, no, I would not be with him. I would have left him the first time. I don't play what if games. We do have kids and I am with him. In the moments leading up to cheating, before blackout, was there a small part of you that justified what you were doing due to resentment? My husband's past indiscretions were on my mind and I justified a bit. I know that I was too drunk to consent, but I wanted to do it and knew what was going on. I've never consumed that much alcohol. I couldn't hold up my own body weight or walk without my legs buckling and had no balance. When I did start questioning if I wanted to be there, I could barely move. There was an arm under my pelvis so I didn't fall over or down, and I didn't have the strength to move my arm back and stop it. My whole body felt like dead weight. When I woke up to the guy on top of me, my arm was hanging off the bed and I couldn't lift it up. I was awake but fell asleep. It's my fault for drinking as much as I did. I drank slowly throughout the day, then 8 or 9 drinks at night while inviting him to my hotel room to drink while he worked on 1 beer. I knew what was going to happen. I removed my boundaries and didn't care about consequences, about no condoms. Who I did it worth, cheating. I enjoyed it because I was completely relaxed and carefree. I was too drunk, but that is not an excuse. I got to that state in company and knew what was going to happen. I want to be with my husband. I don't know what to say or think or do. I don't ever talk about my past with anyone. Now that I have typed it out, it's hard to shove it back down where it belongs. I don't want to be mad about the past. I don't want to go down the X path. I chose to be there. I was too drunk and cheated. I thought if I drank enough it would be easy, and it wasn't enough, so I kept downing drinks until I was 8 to 9 drinks down. I didn't do much other than be there to have sleep with, but it was my choice to drink that much, to take him back to my hotel with me, to sleep with him. It felt good. I wanted to do it. I chose to sleep with a guy who's been behind bars for dealing if I was given something that's entirely my fault. I haven't talked to my husband yet. I don't know what to do now. I should do it ASAP, not at all, wait a while, lie, tell the truth. I don't want to think about my husband cheating still. He hasn't done anything to deserve that. I can't accuse him of cheating again to justify my own. He stopped. He promised that. Update. I told my husband and he lost it and is threatening to go for full custody because I'm a W and he doesn't even like parenting, so he's doing that to get back at me, not for the kids. I know he wouldn't get it because I haven't done anything to my kids, but he will try just to hurt me and prove a point. He pushed me out of the house last night and told me not to go back, then changed the locks this morning, and I know he can't do that, but he did, and I don't want to be around him right now, but he didn't even let me pick my kids up after school, and I just want my kids. He's texting me a lot of horrible messages and has called me every name in the book, and I know it's my fault and I deserve it, but I hate it and can't handle it, but I shouldn't have done it if I can't handle it. I don't know what I'm supposed to do here. It's my fault and I don't want a divorce and I don't know what to do. I stayed with him and we were okay, but he doesn't want to stay with me because I broke the vows, not him, and he doesn't have to, but I want him to. I would take it back if I could. It wasn't worth it and I would take it back. I'm going to end up divorced, losing my kids, with every STD, and knocked up by a high school dropout with a criminal record. I shouldn't have done it and I want to take it back and I can't, and my life is ruined because I wanted some random guy. I want it to go away. I feel gross and dirty and soaking in bleach wouldn't be enough. My husband will never forgive me and I'm losing everything because I'm a B. I hurt my husband knowing exactly how it feels and I did it anyway. I'm a horrible person. My husband deserves better. He didn't cheat after we married. I want to go home and beg my husband to let me do anything to fix it, and he won't let me and I don't know what to do. I called the police and they came and made my husband give me access to the house. My husband lied to the police and said he did give me a key, and I'm doing this to make a scene, and fed them a whole story about the lock needed replacing and me trying to get him out of the house and me accusing him for years of cheating when he was nothing but faithful and that I'm bipolar. He lied and had a whole story made up effortlessly and lied straight to my face and 2 cops' faces, and the neighbors were outside watching. As soon as the cops left, he started screaming at me and pushing me until he left for work. He told everyone that we know that I cheated, but he twisted the details. He said I've been cheating our whole relationship. My kids aren't his. I have a problem. I'm bipolar. I had multiple online affairs, then ran back to my hometown to sleep with 2 guys. Got pregnant and cried rape when I was just a B who drank too much. And he was home with 2 6 kids after begging me not to go. None of that is true. I don't want him to come home from work, but I do want him to, so I don't know what I want. He wants a divorce and I don't want that. He stopped cheating on me, then I went and ruined everything. I don't want to divorce him because we're a family and we have kids together and he's who I picked to marry. He stopped cheating on me and we were okay. He is only acting like this because of what I did. It's my fault and I deserve it because I cheated on him. He doesn't abuse me. I don't want to lose my kids for half their lives or all of their lives if my husband gets what he wants, and it would be my fault because I ruined our family. We put it back together and I ruined it. My husband stopped cheating the last time I was pregnant because he wanted our family together, and we did that, and he was faithful, and I ruined it. I don't want him alone with my kids because he doesn't like parenting, but he'll take them from me if he can get even. I chose this family, and my kids shouldn't have a broken up family because of my mistake and an inability to deal because of my mistake. If we divorce, then my kids are alone with a crap person half the time. How is that any better? If we are together, I know what is happening and I do all of the parenting. If this was the other way around, I would be hurt and feel betrayed. I would grieve the marriage I thought we had because he promised to be faithful. I would be heartbroken. I wouldn't want him to go back again and would want him to promise not to go again. I would stuff it with all the other times and women and try to move on again. I'm a bad mom for staying. I'm a bad mom for going. I'm a bad mom for ruining my kids' lives. I'm a bad mom for risking my kids' well-being. Even if I divorce, my kids will see him regardless because he's the dad I picked for them. I wouldn't have had my first if I knew this was how it was going to be. He wasn't like this before, and it's my fault because he wasn't like this before being with me. I don't want my kids with him 50% of the time. He doesn't yell at them as much as me, and he doesn't hit or push them, but he could. I know how leaving can go and what can happen, and that isn't worth the risk to me. My real mom died leaving. She did everything right to leave, and when the day came, she died. I can't leave, and I need my husband to stay with me. If I was a better wife, my husband would treat me better. My comment: you say you love him and want to stay, but then you just produced a second post accusing your H of being some type of crazy, even after you regret your first post of doing the same thing. You need to figure out what you want and make decisions based on that at this point. You seem to be spinning in circles. Story 2. The break. Clear my head and solicit some input, advice, what have you, as I feel like my recovery has somewhat stalled, as I'm having trouble moving on in a matter of speaking. Married 13 years, together with my wife 18, 2 kids, 10 and 7. We were acquaintances in high school but didn't start dating until after college. This past spring, she engaged in an emotional affair with a college boyfriend of hers. Kind of a redundant and cliched stock story, reconnected on Facebook, initially started as a "hey, how are you doing?" thing and catching up. Eventually turned to increased and intentionally hidden communication, texting for the most part, and pretty frequent phone calls, once every couple of days, that were long in duration. Sharing of lives, sharing of emotional intimacy, etc. D-Day for me was discovering a saved text from him to her in late May. That day was awful, as it is for all of us who have gone through it. I don't think she appreciated the reality of what she was doing, and seeing how it could ruin our entire lives mortified her, I think. With shock, lots of shock. She promised no contact, a commitment to me and our life together. We started couple therapy, etc. A second official D-Day occurred early July when I discovered they were still in contact. In a much reduced way, and not as it was before, but contact, nonetheless. She claimed she didn't look at this period as one where they had a relationship. It was more about needing someone to talk to about the situation, she said. Maybe she didn't fully appreciate the nature of what no contact meant. I told her it was like a binary thing. Contact is either there or it is not. And if it's there, then she and I, will not continue. Anyway, that was another long day. Something about it may have brought her to her senses. I don't know. But it was the distinction of what happened in June versus what happened previously that really gets me. During the actual EA, she hid things from me. A series of lies, sure enough, whereas in June she explicitly lied to me to my face. When I asked specific questions on continued contact, are you still talking to him? Methods of contact, does he have access to your work contact info? She looked me in the eyes and lied, no. This is what scares me, because it calls into question every answer she ever gave me to any question I've ever had. Anyway, the only way I found about their continued contact was because I had tracked down and informed his wife of the situation. I mulled it over for a while, and eventually did it. My wife was pissed, OM's wife was grateful. Telling her, though, was the best decision I made during this process. It brought the continued contact into light, and eventually the knowledge that the OM had allowed himself to fall into an EA before. My wife wasn't the first, nor even the first old girlfriend from college that he did this with. Effectively, the specialty of their relationship was called into question. And from what the OM's wife tells me, they're heading towards divorce. She learned that there were consequences for these actions, and that the fantasy of their relationship had real-life implications. So here I am today. I don't know where, though. I feel like I'm in some kind of holding pattern, vacillating between fear and anxiety that they may still be maintaining contact, and confidence that she and I are a stronger couple facing a better future together. I spend time researching ways in which she could be hiding things, and then chastising myself for looking for bogeymen where they probably, and honestly, don't exist. So maybe someone here could give me advice or slap me in the face and tell me to see things in a different light. I'm not sure. I know there are a lot of holes in this story, which I'll be happy to elaborate on. But from what I can tell, she's honestly remorseful that it happened, has ceased contact, disgusted with herself for allowing it to happen in the first place and for lying to me in June, and is focused on us, on me, and our family. On the other end of the spectrum, she's a bit of rug sweeper under, largely, I think, because she doesn't want to think about what she did, and what she did to me, a defense mechanism so to speak, and our communication, which is on both of us, basically sucks. I'm pretty sure she doesn't want to reopen and constantly revisit the situation, while I'm afraid. Well, afraid of a lot of things. If I keep harping on it, it might push her away, afraid of ruining otherwise good days or times. That sort of thing. While I'm encouraged by many of the things she's done since everything came to a head, I'm bothered by a lot of how she responded to the situation, and that every detail I've gotten I've had to wrench from her. Like I said, I'm stalled in my recovery, my mind constantly going back to the timeline and revisiting the details. Half of me is like it's only 4 to 5 months out. I'm entitled to still be haunted by it, while the other half is like, man, it's been 4/5 months, time to start looking forward. Other notes, I'm pretty sure there was no physical affair. While the distance between the two didn't make it impossible, it does make it pretty improbable, and I don't believe that, at the time of discovery, the relationship was at the point where it would have progressed to that. That being said, he was starting to push for a possible meetup during the summer, which she tells me she resisted and had no intention of pursuing. Also, at the time of discovery, she had no intention of telling me of her EA. First point, I started that. It took me a while to come around to it, wallowing and all, but I've recently started jogging, and while I hate every minute of it, I've been doing it pretty consistently and have started noticing results. Lifting will come soonish, I think. One of the things I realized is that if I were to unfortunately find myself single, for the first time since the late 90 seconds, I'd like to think I'd be a pretty good catch. While I'm not the most self-confident guy, and exercise is helping to change that, I know I have a lot to offer. I love cooking. I'm pretty good at cleaning up, relatively responsible. I have my nerdy interests, but I own them and am proud of them. I'm handy around the house. I like to think I'm generous and giving as a lover, and unhesitatingly self-sacrifice for the sake of my wife and family. I told her this, and it kind of freaked her out. Sudden realization of what she took for granted. Second point, I'm doing that but have been careless with some things. The problem on my end, though, is that when things went deceitful in June, she used a phone I can't, and will never be able to, monitor, her work phone. However, I have been in contact with his wife, checking in and whatnot, and from what we can tell, communication has stopped. Of course, if they decided to go all James Bond on this with burner phones and the like, well, that's a different story. I sound like a cliche when I say it, but I just can't see her doing that. Plenty of fools have said that before, right? I've thought about the VAR before, after reading that thread on here, but that just seems so next level, that I'm not comfortable with. At least, not yet. Third, during our marriage counseling, we kind of got to the root of some of it. Again, sounds so cliche, just another statistic. The monotony of everyday life, stressed out, kids, activities, running around, never enough time for us. The relationship was described as you always hear about any new relationship, fresh, new, exciting, but rooted in the nostalgia of the past, or an easier time, college. A desire for that spark that is lost over time in a long-term relationship. But not for lack of me trying. Access has been technically granted, but really, it hasn't. She says, it's all there if you want to look, but really, the implication is that I'm just supposed to trust her. Bull crap, really. And one of the issues I feel is stalling my recovery, a lack of voluntary transparency. And honestly, I could look at her phone till I'm blue in the face, because she doesn't guard it, and it is left out, and it wouldn't even really matter. If she wanted to do something, it would be on her work phone. No dirty texting as far as I can tell. I can't prove it and have to take her word for it for now, but I've known her, her personality, and her body language for almost 20 years, and the vibe I get is that these things did not occur. No, physical life hadn't really changed over the last couple years. We were never the most frequent, on average maybe once a week, but her libido has always been lower than mine. One benefit to all of this is that our bout of hysterical bonding has transitioned into more frequent intimacy, maybe every 2 to 3 days. It's reassuring to hear that it's 3 to 5 years. I'm well within the still dealing with it phase, and it's okay. There have been plenty of good signs, I think, and these have made me pretty optimistic overall. But yeah, I'm afraid of the trickle truth, and she's revealed essentially nothing about the content of their conversations. I'm sure there was stuff there that would hurt to read. She was good at deleting it and hiding it, and yes, I know what that usually means. There were no out-of-town trips or periods of being missing. I don't think that sort of thing could happen without me noticing, largely due to the nature of our lives, our frequent contact during the day, and the nature of her job which impedes any kind of missing in actions. That's not to say it's impossible, but very much improbable. I think this is likewise on the OM's part as well, from what I've heard about him, his employment, and his family. Dirty texting? I don't think so, though as I said in a previous response, I don't have proof. My instinct tells me that there was none. But my instinct has been wrong before. Pictures, not that I've found, though I'm not sure I'm always looking in the right places on her phone. She tells me she never said any "I love yours." I believe her on this and don't think the relationship had come to this yet. In the early days of discovery, when we talked about it, it was said by her that the development of the relationship wasn't something intended, and that it happened was a surprise to them both. I've read Not Just Friends, so I know how cliché this sounds. Honestly, this whole thing is just a textbook example of an affair. But I've come to look at it not as a thing that happened naturally, but a series of conscientious decisions she and he made. A series of small holes being dug, as you say. A series of decisions with the only intention being betrayal and the compromising of our relationship. While I felt I've had a handle on things, it's clear I don't. The recovery of this situation has, at least it looks like to me now, a pick-me dance. I honestly haven't had the backbone or spine that I should have, and if I could, I would go about things differently in the past. But it also means I can go about things differently in the times to come, and the things I ought to do. She's ashamed of what she did, and ashamed of her behavior, and likely what she said. It's hard to face the mirror sometimes, and I can at least empathize with that. I've thought on it over the weekend. I think the difference here is that when she lied to me in June, I wanted to believe her. So very, very much. I took what she was telling me at face value. Now, I'm much more hyper-vigilant, and take everything she says with a grain of salt and suspicion. I haven't revisited the texting thing since the early days though, and it was definitely during the period of me wanting, and needing, to believe what she said. I'll be readdressing this in the very near future. I wanted, and need, to believe that she wouldn't have done it. But what makes me pretty certain that she didn't do it is, 1. Primarily logistical difficulties, and 2. Her outlook on physical affection. Like I said elsewhere above 2, the distance between the two is such a distance that makes it improbable, but not impossible. The distance compounded by the nature of both their jobs makes this chance even more improbable, almost impossible. The nature of our lives, and the level of communication between her and I, make spontaneous rendezvous is nearly impossible. In terms of her outlook on bonding, well, she's always had the lower libido, and bonding is not quite a priority for her. That's not to say that we don't, or didn't, have a relatively vigorous and satisfying physical life. I can't see her engaging in an affair where the goal was bonding. She's just not wired that way. She did not want for orgasms from me, and I always prioritize her pleasure in bed while trying to be creative and introducing new things. She wouldn't have sought bonding for those reasons. I can see her engaging in an affair where emotional desires are met while a barrier was in place to prevent it going that far. These barriers were the distance, the work schedule, and our hectic life, which is why, I think, she embraced this EA. If he lived in town, well crap, who knows then? Honestly, I don't know what I'd do if I found out she texted him or something. Her mistruth so far has me questioning so much of our relationship in the past now too. But what do I say when I ask her about it? When she says I don't know why you need to know, why you want to keep digging. I'm working so hard on us and trying to show you how much I love you and want us to succeed. In essence, when she claims that she's the one looking at building the future and I am not. My comment, you may want to believe that your WW drew the line at having her emotional desires met, but I think you're being naive if you think that's all he was in it for. Have you ever asked her what he got out of their affair? He's an ex-boyfriend. Things tend to jump to where they were before far quicker than with someone with which she has no history. Subscribe if you haven't, by the way. I have no idea if they met in person, but I'm highly suspicious of the long phone calls. That's a major time investment for a guy who's getting nothing much in return. Going back to where we started, I have no doubt she feels guilt and shame. In no small part because once she found out there were others and she'd most likely just been played. She has to accept you're both in this place because of her choices. And she has to start making better, less self-centered ones if you're to move forward together. You are plan B at the moment.